I'll begin, and once again, welcome to everybody. Why are we doing this event? Gary, you could go ahead and scroll through these as you see that I'm getting to a point where I need to scroll. Because we believe that Christ has expectations of the church, that God has given the church a mission. And if the church has a mission, the leaders of the church have a mission. And God expects us to do our part in making that mission become ministry in the world. And so if we're going to have those expectations and we're going to lay responsibility on people, we believe as a diocese that it's incumbent upon the diocesan staff and leadership to equip people to accomplish what's expected of them. So you have joined the ranks of leaders, maybe not joined, maybe you've renewed, maybe you're staying on as a leader in the life of your own local congregation. We want you to know that we recognize the responsibility you're carrying. We recognize what's expected of you. We recognize also that you might sometimes need help and assistance and expertise, and we want you to know where to go. And that's why we're having this event. In the past, we've had an all-day event we've always called Bishop's Day. It's kind of a shortened version of a longer title. But Bishop's Day is a full day, which we simply can't do anymore. We have to truncate it for this season of our lives into a smaller format, doing it online. So that's why we're asking you to join us we hope to be about an hour and a half. And we've asked you to join us so that we can present to you who the staff of the diocese is, but one by one, so you have faces and names that go together, but also know all the things that the diocesan staff is equipped and ready to do to assist you in your ministry of leadership. As you are a vestry person, many of you, or you are clergy who work with vestries, you understand that the vestry's main job is to care for the temporal affairs of the church. That's how it's described in the canons of our church. The vestries are responsible for the temporal affairs of the church in the same way that the clergy are responsible for the spiritual affairs of the life of a congregation or parish. Of course, you both do those together. And so these circles are concentric, but they also overlap a good bit. So clergy worry about finances, and vestries worry about the mission of the church and the spiritual mission of the church. And so you're in the work together, but particularly it falls to vestries to care for the temporal life of the church. And that includes finances and stewardship and property management and all those things that are so important. And of course, we count on the vestry members to bring to the work of the vestry skills that they may have learned outside the church in their work, in their occupations, in their educations, or just by osmosis. And the skills you bring from outside the church are invaluable to the life of the church. So the diocesan staff is ready to help leaders. And we have other people here from diocesan ministries, as well as officers of the diocese, who are going to talk to you and help. And what we want to do is equip and empower you to work and lead you in the parochial settings where you go to church and where you have been elected to your vestry. Next slide, please. So we believe, as I already indicated, that God is on a mission. God's out there doing his thing, and the church is the vehicle by which God does his mission. Now, not only the church, but certainly the church is the number one missionary body in the world doing the work of God. But the church means all of us. It does not mean just clergy. It doesn't mean certainly just the bishops. It means that we are all the ministers of the church. In the prayer book on page 855, in what we call the catechism, or the outline of the faith, you'll read that the question is asked, who are the ministers of the church? And that is clearly stated that they are lay persons, bishops, priests, and deacons. So we in the Episcopal Church recognize 4 orders of ministry in reality. And the first order of ministry, to which we are all ordained by virtue of our baptism, is the ministry of a lay minister in the life of the church. All members of the church then are entrusted to be messengers of the gospel. Messengers of the gospel. The word apostles that comes out of the New Testament and out of the language of the Greeks is the word for messenger. So in this kind of, the way I think, we all have a role as being messengers of the gospel, and therefore we're all apostles. Certain persons have a specific job of oversight, and that's the Greek word is episkope. And some of us are in holy orders with this very specific job to help oversee the message of the gospel getting out into the world. But that's also true of vestries and bishops' committees, who are also part of the shared episcopae of all the leaders of the church, from the presiding bishop through the bishops to the priests and the deacons. But of course, probably first and before all of those is the ministry shared episcopae among the laity of the church. We are all part of that shared episcopae, that shared oversight of both the treasures and the message of the church. So as a synopsis, our mission comes from God, who sent Christ to be incarnate in the world, God with us, as we say at Christmas most often when we use the word Emmanuel. Christ entrusted God's mission to the apostles he called, and the apostles called others to gather around them. The ministry to this day is carried on by bishops who we believe hold the apostolic office across the world, but bishops are not the only apostles. Everybody who is baptized has an apostolic ministry, a share in that apostolic ministry of being a messenger of the gospel. So we all work, we all share by being apostles to our world. Some of us have specific oversight of certain areas of the church. Some of us are in charge of teaching or pastoring or worshiping or administration or stewardship. Every one of those is part of the shared episcopae of the church. Vestries, as I said earlier, are explicitly entrusted with oversight of the temporal affairs of the church. And so this whole day is to help you do your job better. So I will quit talking and move on to what we're going to do now is roll through a series of presentations, short ones, short presentations by members of the diocesan staff and the officers of the diocese and the chair of one of our program commissions. And I'll let them speak for themselves. I'm not going to introduce them, but some of them will have slides and some of them will talk to us about what they have to offer and how that can intersect with the ministry of your own congregation or parish. So I'll call on the canon to the ordinary to lead us off now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Rutgers. I am canon to the ordinary. I've always been wanting to be known as the lightsaber, and I've yet to be able to get to that. But anyway, it's still a work in process.
Canon is so old-fashioned.
I have two deep pockets that I work with. First one is congregational development. And many people, when you hear that term, think of it just as one thing, but it actually has multiple threads. It's like a tapestry with multiple threads that make it a whole. Areas like leadership style, evangelism, public engagement, visibility, vitality are just a few. And a lot of what I do with churches, with leaders, and with vestries, we talk about systemic awareness. Your parishes are each unique in the way that they are, the size they are, and how they function. St. Stephen's and Monette is not going to function anywhere close to what St. Andrew's in Kansas City is going to do. There's simplicity, not meaning any derogatory, but as far as it's a simple system versus a corporate style version. And so to know that is important for you as vestry and leaders, as clergy, because the dynamics of how the people are organized and how they function, how they express their needs and how those needs are met are done in two completely different ways. It's actually, there's multiple ways. Each place is its own unique context. And so for you to be able to be aware of that, that is something I can do in working with you and talk and learn, and we can explore, we can reorganize, we can add, we can detract, we can tweak, we can define and help better functionality. And like for a parish, you have an administrative system, you have a music system, a liturgy system, a outreach system, a pastoral care system, an outreach and evangelism system. but those all come together to make one parish, again, its own unique context and its own unique response to what is going on around it and to the people and their needs. I can help you with that. That also brings that back then into leadership styles. There's not just one of those. It's like you do not try to play a golf course with just a putter. It's multiple. There's 6 different styles, and it's important for leaders, clergy, lay, those who are formal and those who are also informal. So we're not talking just only vestry. There are patriarchs and matriarchs. There are influential people in each parish that need to know their words and their actions matter and how it conveys information and receives information. Some are always have a default of 1 or 2. Some are visionary. Some are collaborative. Some are maybe with a background from the military, a little more commanding. Some may have a more laid back and affiliative, saying, well, I'll just walk with you. And then there's also pace setters who says, come on, let's get with it. Let's pick up the pace. I can work with you in your vestry to kind of work and discern those kind of gifts and how they get played out and how they receive and convey information. Because we're in a relational organization. It is about relationships. And those about systemic awareness, leadership styles are really important in how you are conveying the message as apostles to your community and your members, and how you're receiving input to be able to understand what are the needs here? What do we need to be doing? What's keeping people up at night that we need to know to respond and help ease that fear, anxiety, and to give hope and a vision of good news. Evangelism. There's people out there who've in this time of the pandemic, there's a lot of people with a lot of angst, a lot of fear, a lot of despair, and they need to hear hope and they need to hear of light and good news. So how are you evangelizing? How are you, and it doesn't just happen as a happenstance. It's intentional in how you are conveying and trying to engage people in your area that have not heard the good news of Jesus Christ. That is then public engagement, visibility. How are we in this time? Actually, we're using right now a paradigm that was kind of on the side and thought, oh, well, if we need to, we can do something virtually. And after this year, this is going to be a norm. This is going to be one of the main platforms of how you're going to connect to people in your parish, but also how the community is going to find you and connect to you. They may be attending your virtual stream of your services. And that's important for you to understand, to keep a high quality, to keep a website that is connected and relevant and timely and kept up to date. They don't want to go here and start seeing that what you did last Christmas. We're past there. We need to be talking about Easter and what's coming down the path. So that congregational health and development, that is one area that you can call me and I'll be more than glad to come and do workshops or just one-on-ones or whatever. Please go and give me a buzz. My numbers are in the diocesan website and connections that are tied to this presentation. Second area is actually transition ministry. I work with clergy who are maybe feeling that they have given their best and their all to where they are and wanting to look for somewhere else or any kind of issue about their role. I do coaching with them. I do discernment work with them as to where they are. And if they do want to move, then I help them find connections and avenues throughout the Episcopal Church. So as soon as I do that, then the next shoe drops. And that means that I've got a senior warden and a vestry that says, now what happens to us? And that's where I commit to them in helping them go through a discernment process of what did they do and where are they at the present? And then what are the expectations, hopes, needs for the future? That may mean doing some grief work, because clergy and people, again, in relationships, get close ties and they get connected. So if somebody's been dependent or somebody's been working in a pastoral or a spiritual or a coaching mentor relationship and all of a sudden that priest is gone, how you feel that? And how does the parish feel what has been their norm? So I work with a discernment process with them for that. help them develop a list of candidates and connect to the greater part of the church. And I pre-vet candidates so that when I bring those to the vestry or a search committee, I can say that for the best of the knowledge of my colleagues and bishops and the church, these are good candidates to be considered. We actually help set up processes for interviews, for visits, and how that kind of gets disseminated as to who is the next priest to be called for that position. So again, congregational development, transition ministry for either clergy or for the parish, those are areas that are the two big deep pockets that I do, in addition to just being connected. My hope is that if you send me an email, if you send a text, or if you make a phone call, my intent is to be back to you either immediately or within that day. So I do not like messages in that lag. So I will promise you that I will be as responsive as possible. And when I do that, I am engaged with you, and I am your advocate at that point, whatever those topics are. Thank you. Any questions?
If you have a question for Steve, please use the raise hand feature and we'll call on you. If he's made everything crystal clear, then we'll move on. Oh, great. We'll move on. Thank you. Gary, who's up next?
Good morning. This is Ron Weil, and I'll be presenting with Tom Cook here. I will try to keep this quick. So next slide, please. We're going to be talking about finance topics, do some introductions, cover how the covenant portion calculation is done, give an overview of the business manual, talk about donations using PayPal, discretionary funds, audits, and then hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A. Tom's a lifelong member of St. Andrew's in Kansas City. He's served on the vestry. He's also a former treasurer, president, and current board member of Bishop Spencer Place. He was voted in as treasurer in January of 2018, and he's had a 40-year career in finance. I am a member of St. Thomas the Apostle just across the state line in Kansas. I'm a former treasurer there and vestry member. I started with the Diocese of West Missouri back in 2014, and I am a CPA. What Tom does, Tom is not a staff member, he's a volunteer. He chairs the finance and assessment review committees. He works as an officer at convention, works with the financial staff members, attend and report to council meetings. He helps prepare the plan for ministry and works with our auditors. I am a member of the staff. I oversee the financials, reconcile balance sheet accounts, and incorporates internal controls. I work with the churches and diocesan staff. I work with our auditors for the diocese. I am available for parish audits, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and other duties as assigned. Here's my contact information. Next slide. Okay, covenant portions calculation is based on the last 2 years of operating revenues, less any outreach that's part of your operating budget. If your operating revenue goes up, we take a 2-year average to determine the base. If it goes down, we'll use the current year. So if your operating revenue goes down, you get the full relief in the calculation. If it goes up, you get a little time to grow into that increase. Next slide. And these are just the portion rates. We are on a progressive scale. Next slide. Sources of income, you can see over the last 10 years, the finance committee has worked very hard to make sure that we're utilizing all resources available to the diocese. Back in 2011, 93% of the plan for ministry was supported or came from covenanted portions. This year it's down to 63%. Next slide. This slide just shows a breakdown of the plan for ministry. 35% goes to administration and governance. Just under 12% goes to the larger church, and the rest goes to program ministries. Next slide. Okay, the National Church has put together a manual of business methods and church affairs. Next slide. These are the topics it covers. The internal controls comes with a very nice internal control checklist. Discretionary funds, we'll talk about a little bit more later, but they have some very good advice on that. And audit guidelines, again, comes with a nice checklist. And lastly, the record management retention schedules, if you're ever wondering how long you have to keep things, is a good guide created by them. Next slide. Okay, last year during the pandemic, we started making our PayPal account for the diocese available to churches. Gary is able to go out and put a donate here button on a church website. The money comes to the diocese PayPal account. The diocese eats the fees, which is 2.2% plus 30 cents per transaction, and sends it to the church at the end of the month. So if someone contributes $100 to your church, your church is going to receive $100. A couple of questions we had from Thursday night on this. People in your church are able to set up these as continuing payments. So if they want to just set it up once to that every month they get charged, that can happen. And people can also direct the purpose of the contribution. So there's a memo line that allows them to say priest discretionary account. Next slide. And here I'll let Tom take over.
Thank you, Ron. My name's Tom Cokier, obviously, and it's an honor to serve as your treasurer. When I was first approached about taking on the role as treasurer, I really kind of reflected on what it is to be part of a hierarchical church. When we look at the Diocese of West Missouri, we're 47 parishes, but we're really one church of West Missouri. And we accomplish so much together that we otherwise would not be able to accomplish as just a single parish or a couple parishes. And as a matter of fact, as mentioned earlier, I'm involved with Bishop Spencer Place. Well, that would not have, Bishop Spencer Place, the genesis of that would not have occurred without the diocese. That goes for St. Luke's Hospital as well. Some of our ongoing ministries, such as Nourish Kansas City, which feeds thousands of people, Council of the Ozarks. There are just so many things that happen with us together as opposed to a single parish. And so upon that reflection, and we see, as the pie chart showed, we do so much with our resources to try and help with our evangelism, supporting the church. I'll also mention that as an aside, just for you all to know, 2020 obviously has been a challenging year for many reasons at just the gathering level, and then what we were staring at in March with the markets cratering. We actually, as a diocese, finished up 2020 in a relatively strong financial position. In 2020, the giving to our parishes on the part of the parishioners remained reasonably steady. It still remains to be seen how the stewardship drives ended up as we get into 2021. But we have your finance committee and your diocesan council have taken steps to be ready to address issues as they may crop up with our 47 parishes. So we've got some levers that we can pull to help. So don't feel free to reach out to me or to Ron or to the bishop to discuss any sort of challenges that you're having. So that's my kind of summary of what we're looking at here on this slide.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, clergy discretionary funds, which we spoke a little bit about. These are, National Church says these are to be established by every church for your rector or priest in charge. Source of the funds, they recommend that you take a loose plate offering once a month. Obviously, with you can tailor that to your own church's needs, and anyone is allowed to contribute to the Clergy Discretionary Fund. Next slide. Generally been recognized that these funds are to be used for the aid of the poor. Other purposes the rector considers pious and charitable. Funds are not gifts to the clergy. Funds must be used to carry out the mission of the church, and funds are not to be used for items that come from the vestry's budget. So it should not be used for anything from the operating budget. The bank account for the fund should be in the congregation's name and under their employee identification number. Bank statement should be mailed to someone other than the rector, priest in charge, and the account should be reconciled monthly. Next slide. The treasurer or someone designated should do random audits on a random basis, verify that canceled checks are backed up with receipts. No checks should be made out to cash. Checks should be direct to utility or a vendor whenever possible. Gift cards to give out for gas or other items such as that. And if there's any issues that arise, please contact me in the bishop's office. Next slide. Diocesan audit policy. Next slide. Audits are required by the canons. The diocese came up with a audit policy that if your church has operating revenue over $500,000, you need to have an independent audit done, which the churches that applies to in our diocese already are doing that. If it's under $500,000, you can have an audit committee by the church to perform an annual audit, or you can contact me and I will be happy to come out and perform an audit. The audits are supposed to be done before September 1st. They need to be presented to the vestry or bishop committee and submitted to the diocese by September 1st. Next slide. Okay, any questions?
You've got questions for Ron, and I know some of those topics are kind of complicated, so you can always call him and have a one-on-one conversation with him at any time. But if there are questions you have that others might like to hear the answer to, go ahead and raise your hand.
And while we're waiting, just a note, if you're interested in getting the PayPal button put on your website, you can contact either me or Gary Allman. And if there are no questions, thank you for your time.
See no one raising their hand, so we'll move on. David.
Good morning. Gary, if you can put me up. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Powell. I am the Chancellor of the Diocese. That means I'm the volunteer general counsel. My day job is that I'm a trial lawyer for the law firm of Lathrop GPM in Kansas City. A little bit of my background: I'm a lifelong Episcopalian. I've been a parishioner and a vestry member of St. Paul's, Kansas City. I'm an alumnus of St. Paul's Episcopal Day School. I've been a church attorney, which is the prosecutor under canon law. And for 20 years, I've been an Episcopal board member of St. Luke's Hospital in Kansas City, which is kind of my long story of my association with the church. I should point out, though, that this particular job of being chancellor can be done with somebody without that long history. So it shouldn't dissuade anyone from getting involved in the management of the diocese and the role of the chancellor. The chancellor's role is established in the constitution of the diocese. It provides that it must be held by someone who's a communicant in good standing in a parish of the diocese, and someone who is learned in civil and ecclesiastical law. As a matter of interpretation, being learned in civil law, it means that you're a licensed attorney in the state of Missouri. Being learned in ecclesiastical law, frankly, is something that nobody gets trained in, and you learn on the job, and that can be done by anybody who's a licensed attorney. In terms of how the chancellor is selected, under the Constitution, the bishop nominates an individual to serve as chancellor, and then they are elected by the convention. The convention also provides for a associate chancellor, and our current associate chancellor is Mark Galis, who is a former senior warden at the cathedral and a very fine employment law attorney. The terms for the chancellor and the vice chancellor are 3 years, and I'm currently will be ending my second 3-year term with this upcoming convention. The chancellor's role are to serve as the chief legal officer of the civil corporation of the diocese and to provide advice and counsel on legal matters. I'm also charged with providing advice to the bishop, and upon request can attend and advise the standing committee. Under the constitutions and canons of our diocese, the chancellor has seat, voice, and vote on the Diocesan Council. I have seat, voice, and vote on the executive committee of the Diocesan Council, and I have seat, voice, and vote as a member of the convention. It's also customary for the bishop to appoint the chancellor as the parliamentarian of the convention and as the chair of the Constitutions and Canons Committee, which reviews any resolutions that involve changes to the diocesan constitution and canons. I should point out that the structure of our diocese is not universal. Other dioceses differ in how they handle the position of the chancellor. The diocese on the east side of the state line, or east side of the state rather, does not have its chancellor serve as an officer or as a voting member of the diocesan council. That means that their role is strictly as a kind of in a legal and advisory capacity. So it can be handled a number of different ways. Some of that may depend upon whether it's easier to recruit lawyers to serve when they are not serving as an officer. But so far we've managed not to have that be an impediment to service as chancellor. The job encompasses 2 areas of law, the civil and ecclesiastical. Under civil law, the questions involve the type you would find for a corporation of the size and complexity of the diocese. That includes answering questions about real estate matters, including negotiating and drafting documents for the disposition of or sale of property, review of leases, review of easements. Also involves review of legal contracts that the diocese enters into, such as the arrangements we make with convention facilities and other vendor agreements. It also involves providing advice and drafting on employment matters, review of employment contracts and other agreements. I also get involved in questions regarding insurance and claims, which mercifully are few and far between, and also becoming involved in changes needed in the corporate structure of the diocese, specifically the changes that we made recently to change the diocese to a not-for-profit corporation under the modern statute. There are 2 different statutes that can be used under Missouri law, and that fell under the chancellor's offices as well. In terms of ecclesiastical law, that really involves advice and counsel on questions that are addressed in the constitutions and canons, both of the diocese and the national church. Involves resolving questions that constituents in the diocese may have or providing advice, also advising on any changes that might be needed in our local constitution and canons. I also have a role as an advisor where there is a Title IV complaint against a member of the clergy. I don't have a specific role in that process. but I can be called upon to advise the intake officer, the bishop, and the different stages of that process, which would include the reference panel, a conference panel, and if it reaches that point, a court of appellate review. The role of the chancellor also includes advising parishes and vestries that are small enough that they don't have a chancellor or of their own. So I'm happy to address questions that may come up at a parish level as well. In terms of handling the job and managing it, we maintain a membership with what's called the Chancellors Network, which is a group of all of the Episcopal chancellors across the country. It provides a message board and a set of resources and allows us to draw on the collective experience and knowledge of our brother and sister chancellors across the country, which is a kind of a tremendous resource because a lot of people have seen many of these questions before. So it's an efficient way for us to get additional knowledge about the church, and particularly on questions of ecclesiastical law. I'll point out that the no chancellor is no lawyer is able to do everything themselves. And the old saw that was drilled into us by my ethics professor, Judge Bullock, was when faced with a novel question, a lawyer has three options. You can get competent, you can get help, or you can get out. So part of the role of the chancellor is knowing when a job requires specialized expertise. And in those cases, we are going to have to hire outside counsel to do things. Sometimes that's me if I'm having to use the resources of the firm to do legal filings with the court or with the Missouri Secretary of State. Other times, if it's a unique question involving a tax law or employment law, we will seek to have advice from an expert in the field. Hopefully the chancellor can do it in such a way that they can package up those questions so that they're very narrow and the time needed from the expert is limited and short. But like anything, we have to pay for that expertise. It's sort of like if you want me to paint a wall in the Diocesan Center, I can do that. If you need plumbing done, we're going to have to hire a plumber. So there are times when you need expertise, and you're going to have to pay for it. And the last thing I think I'll address is where we're looking forward to the issues we may face in the future. The Chancellor's Office will be involved in reviewing documentation and agreements with a bishop provisional. Similarly, any agreements or arrangements for the 9th bishop of the diocese. Also, I think one of my goals with the Associate Chancellor is going to be to try and develop, once we get past COVID, a meeting of Episcopal lawyers in the diocese. I think there are a number of Episcopal lawyers around the diocese. I would like to get us all together just for fellowship and so we know each other, but also because I think they are a potential resource both for potential vestry members, potential chancellors for parishes, potential board members of some of our Episcopal organizations, and also potential associate chancellors and chancellors. I would like to see us reach a point where we have a better knowledge of the expertise in the diocese and we can develop a roster of associate chancellors in different areas of the law. So it sort of mirrors a small law firm. And hopefully that will allow us to diminish perhaps the legal spend of the diocese if we can kind of develop a series of associate chancellors who we can draw on for particular questions. So that's everything I have. I will take questions. While you might be thinking of that question, as a point of personal privilege, I want to make some thank yous. I would like to thank, in particular, Gary and Jamila, because this past year at the Chancellor's instigation, we had to have one socially distanced small convention to change our corporate structure. And then we had a virtual, our first ever and hopefully last virtual convention. And both of those went extraordinarily smoothly, thanks to all the hard work of all of the diocesan staff, but particularly Gary and Jamila. And I'd also like to thank those of you on the call. I know many of you were involved in those conventions, and as Chancellor, I greatly appreciate your help getting that done. And with that, I'll take any questions. All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to our next presenters, who are Gary and Jamila.
This is not a question asking group.
Right, okay, can everybody hear me? Excellent. Okay, I'm going to kick off and then I'll be handing over to Jamila, and I'm going to talk about all sorts of things that we've got on offer. Specifically though, I want to start with one of the most important things. Oh, there you go. Didn't want to work. One of the most important things that you can do as vestry members and church leaders, and that is make sure that you get the Spirit update every 2 weeks. It gets sent out twice a month, so every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that has all the information that you need to find out about grants, things that are going on in the other churches, and also special offers, whatever else is going on. The update is a curated news list from all the news sources around. Effectively, we're trying to save you from having to do all the work and reading all the sources. There are so many news sources now that it makes a lot of sense just to try and curate that for you. So the New Spirit update, you should get it emailed, and if you don't, you can go to the Diocesan website, and from there you can sign up for it. Or if you go to the actual New Spirit itself, there's a button there where you can sign up, and if you try and go and leave the page, it will try and convince you to sign up. So there's lots of opportunities for you to sign up for that. So let's go on and just talk about the other resources that we have for churches. We've talked about this one. The next one is that Kim Snodgrass and myself spend an hour each day available online. We sit and do our work and we have a little chat every now and then, and we're here to answer your questions. So you can just go to the address there. And again, when we send out the slides on Monday, you have to click on that and you can just come along and join us. Anytime between 11 and noon, every day of the week, we're available. And if you've got a question we can't answer, if they're available, we can bring in the other members of staff as well, so they can answer your questions. So that's a great opportunity. If you don't have a computer that can handle the technology, you can also dial in. There's a phone number for that as well. I do a lot of promotion on social media. I go through and I try and see what all the churches are doing, like your posts and everything else, just to help them get more organic growth. But it really helps me if you use the hashtag DWMO in your posts that you'd like to have shared, because if you don't do that, I don't see them. There's 47 churches plus lots of other groups that I have to follow, and I need your help to find the things that you want me to share. I also run paid for promotions, and I will email church leadership, or we'll put something in the news update asking you if you're doing specific things. Easter's one coming up where I'll be running paid promotions, paying for advertising on Facebook. To save you having to do a lot of work and have people, if you're a smaller church, we publish every evening at 8:25 a daily prayer, and through Lent we're also publishing at, I think it's 6:30 in the evening, a verse a day. Those are just posts on social media that you can share, so it saves you having to create new content. We have a Facebook group for the communicators and church administrators. where you can come and ask questions of your colleagues. And of course, we run an online service list. So it's important that you email me if you change your online services so I know about it. The diocese has a church admin website that's got all the information that you need, plus all the contact information for ourselves there. And we also run an asset map, which is the find a church function that's used by the Episcopal Church and the diocese. We offer website hosting. We've got about 30 plus churches that are on digital faith at the moment, and we're moving churches over to the WordPress platform, and we've got 3 so far that are starting to work on that. We also have an offer at the moment for Microsoft Office is available free for up to 26 churches. That gives you a professional email service plus all the normal Microsoft products that you can use. The advantage of getting this through us is that we do all the administration side for you, so you don't need to have to worry about that. And Microsoft send out a lot of information each week. And of course, we do online event delivery, which Jamila will be talking about in just a moment. And we've got a lot of portable AV equipment, which we can share out and use. That's for groups or for events that are going to be of interest to more than one church. So I'm not going to do your bring and buy sales, but if you've got something that's open to other people that you want to share online or you need AV equipment for, we have it. And here's a few musts for you. The first one we've already gone through. You really must read the leadership section on the news updates. Check your asset map entries. It's been 7 years, so if you haven't updated it since the beginning, it needs looking at. Sign up your churches for Google My Business and get your Google business profile set up.
Gary, your slide's not advancing, I don't think.
Oh, pooh. Right, there we go. I must have
There
moved
you
my
go.
mouse. Too many things to look at this end. And yes, sign up for Google My Business. Get your Google profile set up. That'll make your churches more searchable. And if you've got any questions, you can contact me. And now I'm going to hand over to Jamila, and she can tell you about what she's doing on the event side of things.
Thank you so much, Gary. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm going to assume so. Good morning, everyone. I am Jamila Duckett, the events coordinator with the Diocese. I have a 20-year background career as a convention services manager and was also in hotel sales. I joined the Diocese last April, so we're coming up on about a year now, and I'm very happy to be here. I do work part-time Monday through Friday. During the day, the best way to reach me if you have a request is via email, but please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and give me a call if it would be easier to just talk it out with me. I'm happy to help you. My contact information is available on the Diocese webpage. So I'm happy to be your very first call when it comes to any assistance needed or any questions that you may have regarding diocesan meetings and events. For diocesan-wide events and some church services, I work closely with Gary, our communications director. We produce the artwork, the words, event promotional materials, and email campaigns. On the event side, I handle the logistics, which include registration, venue bookings, hotel room blocks, contract negotiation, meals, etc. You can contact me regarding the regular events that we hold, including Church Leadership Essentials, formerly Bishop's Days, the Diocesan Convention, our annual convention, Diocesan Council meetings, our Summer Church Retreat, our Summer Church Summit, and many, many more. I also assist with online meetings. I assist with setting up meetings via Zoom or Teams. So for churches that do not have their own online meeting accounts, we can offer the use of our diocesan account by providing the timing, provided the timing doesn't conflict with other meetings that we have going on, our pre-booked meetings. This is most helpful for churches that only have the basic level of the Zoom account. So our account is unlimited and it's up to 100 people plus more if you need that. So don't hesitate to give me a call. For New Spirit, which Gary was just touching on, I am responsible for maintaining and updating the event section, creating separate event pages to promote our larger events. I produce the registration forms. I organize our email campaigns. So if you have an event that you would like to submit for publication, please contact me via email. I also handle our diocesan calendar. I maintain it internally and externally for things which include commission, committee, and ministry meetings, the Bishop Kemper School for Ministry, Deanery Clericus Council meetings, the Diocesan Council, Standing Committee, Diversity and Reconciliation Committee, and other diocesan-wide events. If you have a meeting or an event that needs to be added to the calendar, just let me know and I'll get that in there for you. I also handle hotel bookings, and that goes back to my hotel background. So if you need help finding a hotel room block, and it has to be 10 guest rooms or more, and this is for a church event or any other type of meeting here locally or worldwide, I can handle the site selection of the hotel and the contract negotiations for you. So just send me an email with your event dates, your number of guest rooms, your event title and your desired location, and your budget for the room rate, and I will handle the initial search for you, and we'll just go from there. So don't hesitate to contact me. I am here to help. I love all things events, and I love being with the diocese. Again, it's going to be coming up on a year, and the staff is amazing. And if I don't have an answer for you, I will find it for you. Are there any questions? Quiet bunch today.
It is a quiet bunch today.
Oh, wait.
You do have
I got some hands.
Let's do, this isn't a question for Jamila, but it is for Gary. I made a mistake in my presentation, which is you really only need to know one thing, which is there is a chancellor email that is evergreen. It's chancellor@diowesmo.org. Gary set that up. It will always go to whoever the current occupant of the chancellor's role is, and I'll ask him to put that in the chat for the group. And again, my thanks to Gary for getting that set up. So
I'd like to have all the staff put their email and phone number in the chat so that anybody who needs to can just save their chat and have all that information.
And the next is you have a question from Beverly Roggenkamp.
I have a question regarding people who do not have computers. How are they supposed to get these communications?
Gary, did you want to speak to that?
I will indeed. The arrangements that we made when we stopped issuing paper-based communications was that the local churches would print out anything that was needed.
Thank you. Whoa.
Speakers next to microphones make a bad mix.
Yeah. And if anyone needs help working out how to print the things, the Spirit update is designed to be fairly easy to print, and all the articles in New Spirit are designed to be very easy to print as well. So if anybody's having any problems or needs to know how to do that, just give me a call or turn up on the daily meetings and we'll show you how to do it.
That appears to be the last of the questions. And we go on to Emily.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Davenport. I'm Bishop Field's assistant, and I am your first line of communication when trying to meet with the bishop or speak with him. And today I have slides. I didn't have them on our last one. So how about that? This is going to be special. So as you can read, my primary responsibility is connecting you with the bishop. Feel free to email me to set that up. I can set up online meetings or phone calls. As you can see, my office phone number is listed. If you call that right now, you're going to get my voicemail because we are working remotely. My voicemail will alert you that you have left a message, and I will call you back as soon as possible. Or I've listed my mobile number. Feel free to call me on that number directly instead of calling the office. That works just fine. So that's how to connect with me, and then I can get you set up to speak with Bishop Marty. Next slide, please. One of my primary responsibilities is managing Bishop Field's visitation schedule, and that is when he comes to your church either for a Sunday visitation or a weekday visitation to meet with the leadership of your church. I send that request to the, my timer just went off, so that wasn't for me. I send that request to either the clergy or the warden in charge. So just so you know, if there are some of the things that I'm talking about that you've not seen, most of my communication goes either to your clergy in charge or your warden, pardon me, warden in charge. But I do send that notification 4 to 6 weeks in advance so that we can plan, especially on those weekday visitations, to make sure if you wanted to be during the day or at night, just so I can plan his schedule. Next slide, please. I also send requests for your vestry or bishops committee rosters and your slates of delegates. These are actual parts of our diocesan records, and they also help us know who to contact and how to contact that person in case we are seeking to fill leadership roles. We go to those vestry rosters because those folks have already said that they are interested in assisting and being leaderships throughout the diocese. So we appreciate that. And your slate of delegate form is very important. That is how we record things for voting purposes at the annual convention. And it's also how your deans of the local deanery, of your local deaneries, contact you to let you know about deanery council meetings. It is very important that your delegates understand that it is a process throughout the year leading up to convention, not just showing up in November, but there are decisions and information that goes out year round that we send on behalf of the deans to your delegates so that they can be informed and ready to show up at convention and have the needed information. Next slide.
Let me jump in for a second there.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure everybody knows, you've alluded to it, but I want to say it very clearly. If you are elected to a delegate to convention, you are automatically your church's delegate to your deanery council. So those roles go together. And some people think they're only a delegate to convention and they don't know who their deanery council who they should be represented by at deanery council. But the diocesan convention delegates are also deanery council delegates automatically. Thank you.
Welcome. I track the lay licensing applications and expirations for the Commission on Ministry. Again, I communicate with the clergy or the wardens in charge, as well as, this is new this year, the licensee. We notify each time when it's about to expire and when it's time to renew. And those lay licensing available options are preacher, evangelist, catechist, Eucharistic minister, Eucharistic visitor, pastoral leader, and worship leader. And Father Bill Faisal will speak a little bit more about lay licensing, but if you have questions about who is licensed in your church, I have record of all that. Next slide, please. And that leads into, I also manage, I don't control the database, but I manage the database. And it has all of the information that we use for contact. It includes the vestry and the bishops committee rosters. It all of the committees for the diocesan, various diocesan committees and leadership roles. And it really helps us be able to communicate throughout the diocese. So if your email changes, especially as a leadership role, please either have your clergy contact me or your parish admin, or feel free to contact me directly if you have an email address or a phone number change. I can get that updated in our database. That way we don't miss communicating with you. Next slide, please. My other role is I assist the Commission on Ministry, and I coordinate communication and documents and such on those who are in the process for ordination. So nominees, postulants, and candidates. And again, Father Bill Faisal will speak more about that process, but if you have questions, either he or I can be a first line of communication for that as well. Next slide, please. So to sum up, I am at your service. This is just a real slight glazing overview of all that we do. While most of my reminders, like I said, are aimed at your clergy or wardens in charge, all of my communications are also shared in the news update, which Gary and Jamila just discussed. But overall, I wanted to let you know I am here for you. It's true of all of the staff. If you need something, please reach out. If I don't know the answer, I can certainly find the person who does have the answer, and we are here for you. So call us, email us, we're here for you. Thank you. Do you have any questions? I think we're good. You're muted, sir.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I want to add how much I appreciate, well, the whole staff, but Emily. Emily keeps my calendar for me. I've always said that I have a wife and an executive assistant, and my life is in good order because 2 women run it. And so I just want you to know that the reason Emily is on the first line to connect with me is because I'm on the road so often that I wouldn't always be available. But with Emily, you always have an ear that will listen to what you need and what you have to do. So please don't ever hesitate to use Emily's services to get to me. I'm often unavailable and she's always available. So that's why she's here for you all. Thanks. Who's up next? Bill.
Yep. Okay, Gary, slideshow. All right. My name is Bill Faisal. I am the assistant to the bishop for leadership development. I used to say I wore 2 hats for the diocese, but last summer I traded in one of those hats for one that said retired. So the only one I'm doing where I'm actually making money now is as the assistant to the bishop for leadership development. And that is mostly working with the Commission on Ministry and organizations related to the Commission on Ministry. So the chart you see in front of you is the basic picture of what I work with. The Commission on Ministry itself, we've divided into 4 subcommittees, one for vocational discernment, one for the ordination process, one for licensed ministries, and one for continuing education, mentoring, and orientation of clergy. And then in addition to that, the other organizations related to the Commission on Ministry is the Board of Examining Chaplains, which examines and evaluates candidates for ordination with their canonical exams, the Bishop Kemper School for Ministry, and then we have a relationship because of a canon with the Christian Formation Commission. So that's what we work with. Gary, next. Oh, great. All right. So every diocese is required to have a commission on ministry. And it's in the Title III ministry canons of the General Episcopal Church. The purpose of the Commission on Ministry is to assist the bishop in the implementation of all of those canons that have to do with ministry. The Commission on Ministry has 18 regular members. 6 of them are either elected or appointed each year for 3-year terms, and they are equally divided between clergy and laity. And then in addition to the 18 regular members, we have 3 ex officio members. The chair of the Diocesan Board of Examining Chaplains, currently Victor Matthews. The director of spiritual wellness at St. Luke's Health System, currently Susan Roberts. And then the assistant to the bishop for leadership development, i.e. me. The chair of the Commission of Ministry is Mr. Robert, aka Bob Maynard. Did we skip a slide? There should be one on, oh yes, discernment, great. The discernment subcommittee is responsible for providing resources to congregations for discerning ministry vocations. The synonym for that is a calling to ministry for all their members. It's not just ordained members, but every Christian has a calling or one or more callings to ministry, and we want to help all Christians, all members of our diocese, in their discernment of where God is calling them to serve, lay or ordained. The subcommittee is also responsible for the discernment process that is used by the Commission on Ministry with persons nominated for ordination. In other words, when someone is nominated for ordination, the first thing the commission does is put together a smaller committee to discern with that person further about whether they are truly called to at one or another ordained ministry. And then we are just now in the process of publishing a discernment handbook for the diocese. As of this week, that discernment handbook is on the diocesan website, and in the near future, all of our churches will be receiving a print copy of that as well. Father Joseph Theracon, the rector of St. James in Springfield, is the chair of that subcommittee. Now, the ordination subcommittee is actually the whole Commission on Ministry. We created the subcommittee and then found that it worked best just to have the whole committee on it, because the whole committee needs to be involved with all the various people who are nominated for ordination. The ordination process begins with a nomination. Now, a nomination normally comes from a congregation in our diocese, and an official nomination is a letter from the church that is signed by the priest in charge, rector or vicar or priest in charge, and at least 2/3 of the vestry or bishop's committee. And then it has to be accepted by the person nominated. That's what makes a nomination. If you have someone in your congregation that you believe may be called to ordain ministry and you want some help in that nomination process, please contact me or contact Bob Maynard, the chair, and we will be happy to help you. The other thing about the process is that the bishop would like to be involved early in the process, even usually before a nomination. So if you have any potential person in your congregation who you believe is going into or should go into discernment for ordination, call Emily Davenport and have that person make an appointment to meet the bishop, because the bishop wants to know who these people are and get to have a personal relationship with them. The whole ordination process is pretty complex, and I'm not going to go through it right now, but you can, it's described on the diocesan website. If you go to For Clergy, on that tab underneath, click on ordination process, and you can read the whole thing, how we do it. The licensed ministry subcommittee, again, is dealing with those 7 lay licenses that are defined by the canons of the Episcopal Church and that are issued by the bishop. And we are prepared to issue all 7 licenses in this diocese. Those are catechist, preacher, pastoral leader, worship leader, Eucharistic minister, Eucharistic visitor, and evangelist. To find out what these are, and I'm not going to take the time now to define each one of them because I'd go way over my 10 minutes, but all the definitions, the policies, the requirements, and the application forms are available on the diocesan website, Again, if you hover over the Our Work tab, you'll find licensed ministry. Click on that and you'll get links to everything you need. When we issue licenses, they're normally granted for up to 3 years. All licenses will expire on March 1st of a particular year. In fact, on Monday, all of our catechist and preacher licenses are going to expire and need to be renewed if they haven't been already. The next year, Eucharistic minister, Eucharistic visitor, and evangelist licenses will expire. And then in 2023, worship leader and pastoral leader. You can submit renewal applications anytime after the 1st of January up until March and thereafter. If you want it renewed on the March 1 date, it needs to be before March 1st. New applications for any license may be submitted at any time. So you don't have to wait till it's the right year. Just when someone is ready to be licensed, send in the application. The Bishop Kemper School for Ministry has curricula for 4 of these licenses: catechist, preacher, pastoral leader, and evangelist. For 2 of them, that is Eucharistic minister and Eucharistic visitor, the community of deacons provides the training for those licenses. If you don't have a deacon in your congregation, contact the Archdeacon, Bruce Bauer. He can get someone to do the training for you. And that leaves worship leader as the only orphan here. BKSM is working on a plan to create a one-day workshop. For that, the pandemic kind of slowed us down, but that's still in the works. Chair of the Licensed Ministry Commission is Cosette Hardwick from Christ Church St. Joseph. The Clergy Continuing Education, Mentoring, and Orientation Committee has 3 basic responsibilities: the continuing education of all the clergy in our diocese, mentoring for newly ordained clergy, and then orientation and welcoming to the diocese for clergy who are new to our diocese, whether they're newly ordained or moving in. Prior to COVID, churches were asked to contribute to welcome baskets for our new clergy, and we're hoping to return to this practice. It would coincide with returning to an in-person diocesan convention. So stand by, we may be asking you to contribute. The chair of this subcommittee is Deacon Beck Schubert. Diocesan Board of Examining Chaplains is tasked with examining candidates for ordination to ascertain if they are proficient in the knowledge areas required for their order, either deacon or priest. The examining chaplains has 10 members, and they're both lay and ordained, and they serve 3-year terms elected by diocesan convention. The chair is Dr. Victor Matthews. The backup one, please. Bishop Kemper School for Ministry. Yes. BKSM we're one of 4 owning dioceses of BKSM, so it's our school. BKSM offers 3 curriculum tracks for Episcopal clergy, 4 tracks for licensed lay ministry, and 1 track for Lutheran parish associates. We also offer periodic continuing education. Anyone, lay or ordained, may take or audit a course at BKSM, but admission to a track requires permission. That is, for an ordained track to be able to be admitted to the track to take all of the courses requires the permission of Bishop Field, and to be admitted to a licensed ministry track requires permission of rector, vicar, or priest in charge in your congregation. Currently, all courses are being taught online via Zoom. We hope to return by summer to be back at our campus in Topeka, at least for some of our classes. Although even when we go back to in-person classes, you can always take a class via Zoom. We're set up in Topeka to do that in all of our classrooms. For more information, visit the BKSM website. It is bishopkemperschool.org. The dean is the Very Reverend Dr. Don Compier, now a member of our diocese. And the other owning dioceses besides West Missouri are Kansas, Western Kansas, and Nebraska. Lastly, Title III, Canon 1 requires that a diocese, and this becomes the responsibility of the Commission on Ministry, make provision for the affirmation and development of the ministry of all baptized persons, including understanding that they are called to minister in Christ's name, etc., and assistance in understanding that all baptized ministries are called to sustain their ministries through commitment to lifelong Christian formation. So while the canons give that responsibility to the Commission on Ministry, we have another group in the diocese that's better equipped to do that. And so they do it. That is the Christian Formation Commission. And the staff person for that is the assistant to the bishop for Christian Formation, Kim Snodgrass. She and our assistant for youth ministry are coming up next. And so they will be able to describe in much greater detail what we're doing in that area. Does anyone have any questions for me? I was either brilliant or I overdid them. Okay, great.
You were brilliant, Bill. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Kim and Josh.
Good late morning. My name is Josh Trader.
Sorry, Josh, we did have one hand pop up, I believe, for Bill. Kathy Potter, did you have a question for Bill Faisal? You'll need to unmute, please.
There we go.
There you
I
go.
sent a chat question too. If a person is ready to act as a lay minister and years not following in a renewal year, he or she can still be licensed in the years between, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely. You can apply for a license at any time, even if it's just, we had this year, we had someone apply for a license as a catechist about 4 months before it was going to expire. But she went ahead and applied and we went ahead and licensed her. So yes, anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in all cases, that first license will be of varying lengths depending on when the nomination is received or the application is received, but it will always end on those pre-described dates.
Right.
And after that, it's 3 full years each time.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you, Josh, but go for it.
So my name is Josh Trader, and I serve as the assistant to the bishop for youth ministry development here in the diocese. The purpose of youth ministry is to make the teaching, wisdom, and ministry of Jesus Christ our cornerstone, and believe a relationship with the triune God is life-giving, experiential, and transformational. The goal of my job is to help develop a program that inspires, educates, and empowers middle and high school students, so those currently in 6th through 12th grade, to pursue living out the good news set forth by Jesus Christ. Specifically for congregations, I'm available to help train and empower volunteers and youth leaders using our ministry handbook as a guide that myself and Kim Snodgrass have developed. I'm also available to help plan any activities that you may be looking to do that involve youth ministry, ranging from Zoom meetings to, as the weather gets nicer outside, in person, or whatever your current comfort level is within your congregation. The goal would be to help you create a safe space and a loving environment for the young people to participate, ask tough questions, and cultivate healthy and meaningful relationships. Specifically for those that work with youth, I would work to help equip them with resources to develop a dynamic ministry. I support them in developing values, ethical norms, and a sense of Christian community. With all the pandemic going on, all of our events have been moved to an online fashion using either Zoom or live streams on social media. Coming up, we have a few events. Every second Sunday, I host Compline at 7:30. And this is open to any that would like to join us. The link for that is at wemouth.com. That is on Zoom, so we can have some interaction and check in to see how everyone is doing. And then every Monday, I host a meeting for youth leaders in our diocese from 8 to 9 p.m. We spend some time talking about what's been going on in our congregations, what's going on in our personal lives, and we end the night with Compline. This has been something that we've been doing for over a year now. We started that actually pre-pandemic, and since the pandemic, it's seen a lot more people attending. If you are interested in joining us for that, if you are a leader of youth in your congregation, whether that be for Sunday school or an actual youth leader, please contact me and we'll get you added to the list so that you can get the link for that meeting. Currently, we're in between the middle of our first Dismantling Racism youth retreat. This is a curriculum that comes from the Absalom Jones Center for Racial Healing, which is a combined project of the Diocese of Atlanta and the Episcopal Church. In order to be a leader for this curriculum, you had to go through a training process through the Absalom Jones Center, in which we've had 6 youth leaders in our diocese do that, and that we are currently leading a digital retreat. It's a 2-day retreat. We had our first meeting this past Sunday, and then we'll meet again tomorrow. For this first round, we have 7 youth that have joined us. So it's kind of our test run to see how things work with online, because it's designed to be an in-person 6-week retreat typically. April 10th, 11th will be our digital junior high retreat. This is the first event that incoming 6th graders will be able to attend. So those that are currently in 5th grade. And then April 17th, I'll be working with Church of the Good Shepherd in the Kansas City area to host a drive-in movie. And then May the 1st, I'll be doing the same thing down here in Springfield at St. James. We're always looking for people to get involved with all of our events, whether that be someone that's just simply a presence, someone that leads a workshop, or helps facilitate discussions in small groups. We're also looking for adults to serve a 2-year term on the Youth Ministry Commission. The Youth Ministry Commission is a group of youth and adults from around our diocese that get together to plan out our events for the year, as well as take advantage of some leadership opportunities. If you're interested in any of this, please reach out to me via email, which is wemouth@diowesmo.org, and it'll be available in the packet that's sent out. Kim.
Sorry, I didn't want to make noise. So, hi, good morning. I'm Kim Snodgrass, and I also serve as an assistant to the Bishop for Christian Formation. My work is part-time, and like everyone else, I'm here to help you in any way I can. So please always feel free to reach out using the information Gary will post. Christian formation as a ministry is relatively new to our diocese. So the purpose of this ministry is to encourage and nurture spiritual growth, Christian practices, and theological reflection. One goal of this ministry is to offer you formational resources. And a collection of resources is on the Diocesan website. It's intended to simplify the search process and to organize the wealth of information that's available online into a single source for individuals, for families, or for congregations. It's a combination of traditional and experiential resources that they've been curated for people of all ages, so you can engage in the process of intentional Christian formation. I also want to be a companion presence, offering support, consultation, and encouragement to clergy, lay people, and congregations. I'm here to advocate for both the development of short and long-term strategies that bring community together to shape and transform everyday life as we learn to follow the way. As Gary mentioned, I join him every day during the virtual coffee hour, where anyone is welcome to come and ask questions, explore those resources together, and share experiences, again, between 11 and noon, Monday through Thursday. I do weekly posts on the Diocesan Facebook page on formation-related topics, especially home practices. Last summer, we had over 30 households in the diocese participate in a diocesan-wide God's Wonderful Creation virtual vacation Bible school created by Kat Mercer, and we hope to make that same sort of opportunity available to households again in a few months. Josh and I have also talked about getting together for a family picnic and hosting that this summer. Last fall, we offered our first wellness gathering on parenting with mindfulness. It was engaged by 100+ people and provided a much needed template for future virtual gatherings like this. It was the first offering in a planned series of wellness gatherings that allow us to relax and learn a little something together. So topics might be self-care, prayer, creating sacred space at home, ethics, stewardship, and practicing forgiveness. So if topics come to your mind, please send me your suggestions. And finally, this past January, we introduced Everything Holy, which is a collaborative effort between Josh Trader, again in youth ministry, and Kat Mercer. I'll tell you a little bit about that project. My sacred space is sitting behind me, and the Everything Holy project is a monthly experiential Christian formation resource for households of all shapes and sizes. Those who opt in receive a monthly packet of multiple formational elements, education, liturgy, fellowship, and mission that have been woven together around a monthly theme. The packets, which look like this and come to you, those packets provide a variety of opportunities that try to keep in mind that we all learn a little bit differently. So the aim is to create an environment that prompts individuals of all ages to engage in formation, to explore, grow, deepen their daily experience of God, and to gain new perspectives. We believe that with the right tools, people of all ages within any household can be empowered to connect the dots. The project equips formation and formational leadership within the home. Actively engaging in Christian formation is a transformative exercise. Our understanding of morality, politics, economics, labor, family, the environment, hospitality, justice, friendship, forgiveness, everything is affected as we allow ourselves to be formed and transformed by God. Josh is going to tell you a little bit more about how that project's going.
So yes, as Kim was saying, Everything Holy is designed to be able to be used in all households, whether that's just a single individual, a couple, or a household with children. It's also created with something for all ages. It is an opt-in program. So all you have to do is head over to the Diocesan website, diowesmo.org, and head to the Everything Holy section, or you can just hit /Everything Holy and fill out the opt-in form. Once you opt in, you'll receive a welcome box, which includes items that you need to create a sacred space in your home, along with that first month's packets. And then every month thereafter, you'll receive our monthly formation packet with no need to opt in again. When you do opt in, you'll join over 250 households from around the diocese and a few from outside our diocese. Currently, we are shipping to we have 2 that go to the California area. So those are our furthest boxes that we send out. And to be honest, when we first dreamed up this project, we only had the expectation of 100 households to be signed up by the end of this year. But with the overwhelming support and now topping over 250 households, we're still only the second month of this year. We're looking to individuals and churches to help support the project. In the coming weeks, there will be a button on the website to allow individuals to financially support in a tiered fashion. This can be done either to support just the items that we send to your house. You can also support your house and others, or just a portion of that. Churches can also offer their support in a number of ways. For instance, Grace and Holy Trinity Cathedral is currently handling all of our printing for us. And as we move forward and grow, we'll be looking for support in the way of content as well. Kim, did I leave anything out?
No, you added the 2 things I was just thinking of. Yes, so thank you. Are there any questions for either one of us?
I want to say that the Everything Holy program, which is exceeding far beyond our wildest expectations from what we thought we would slowly grow a program into. It has grown by leaps and bounds. And we actually, as Josh was alluding, we have the wonderful problem of having a program that is so successful. We need to work on some additional funding to keep supporting it and keeping it going. And I think that's the kind of problem I always dreamed to have. If I have to have a problem, I want it to be keeping up with wildly successful programs. So I'm happy, I'm very, very happy about that. And I hope you'll all consider how you might both participate and support Everything Holy. Seeing no questions, I guess we'll move on. Thank you, Kim and Josh.
Thank you.
Gary, I think you've got Shirley ahead of me. Do you want me just to share my screen?
Give Gary a chance to go back. There you go.
Okay, there we are.
You want to be that person?
That's me. Hi, I'm Elaine Gilligan. I work in the human resource as an administrator and also a finance assistant. I actually am a member of the Church of the Resurrection in Blue Springs since 1986. I've been with the diocese since around 2011 on a part-time basis. And as a part-time person, I want to be available to you every day. So the best way is through email or my cell phone. Although if you call my number at the diocese, I do get an alert that there's a message, and then I will return your call. So I try to get back to everyone as promptly as possible. As a human resource administration, when I came on, we formed a human resource committee, and we formulated some documents to help our churches. And on our website, okay, I'm still waiting on the screen to show up. I think I guess I'll just talk. Okay, so what we do have on our website is, if you just go in and Google for or search for human resources, you'll see we have information like how to onboard volunteers and employees for your church, all the medical and dental plans and their pricing, the required minimum clergy compensation, mutual ministry review process if you'd like to do that with your church as a vestry. And there's a whole lot more out there as far as onboarding and managing and employees. Now, what can I do for you? I am your contact person for if you have any employee changes within your church. It is good for you to let me know. And the reason is that our group life insurance that we offer to both clergy and to lay employees with certain qualifications, I cannot add the coverage unless I know you are onboarding someone, and I can't terminate that coverage when they leave unless you know. So then we'd be paying premiums for people that are no longer with your organization. Also, any compensation changes of your lay or clergy people, I should be notified, as we update those online now rather than in paper format. And that drives pension payments and billings. And so we want to be sure those are done accurately. Another thing I do is the background checks for different positions within, and there's guidelines about that online and the form that is needed. Those background checks include criminal, a credit background, the national sexual, and also the motor vehicle. So based on positions, we can order those for you. Also, I work with the safeguarding. Many of you are familiar with the Safeguarding God's People and Safeguarding God's Children. We did live courses previously. Now, mostly all that is online. It is a much expanded number of courses available, including like elder care, recognizing neglect and abuse. There's just a whole array of courses out there. I will caution you that that is a ever-changing model, because They continue to update it. So there's always more available. But they're very good online courses that your members can take. I also work with the pension and the 403B enrollments, the benefits for the medical, disability, dental, life insurance. Any questions about that for your clergy or lay, you can direct those to me. And the annual enrollment period, which is in the October timeframe. Property and casualty insurance for your church, that means basically your building coverage, your liability coverage, if you have rental properties, how to get those insured, and then also your workers' compensation is all areas that you can reach out to me with regard. We do have all of our parishes are insured through our church insurance, which is a good thing to have, and we have contacts with people to help us if you have deeper questions than I can answer. They've done a really good job for us and for our claim handling. Another thing I work with is churches who are looking for a payroll service for their church. So it's probably more applicable to the larger denomination or larger congregations. If you are currently doing it and are interested in doing a payroll service, the Episcopal payroll service from our general church, we can provide with a 70% discount using the ADP services. That's what we, the diocese, use. It's a time saver and it's well worth the expense for that. Okay, I see Kathy's shaking her head. Yes, it is. Okay, so that's one portion of my work. The other is as a finance assistant. I work with Ron Weil and Tom Cokier. I do the accounts receivable and accounts payable. So what that basically means is when you get your monthly, if you will, invoice for the covenant portion, I generate those. And then I also am responsible for posting all the payments that come in for that or any other money received by the diocese, getting that into our system. And then the reverse of that is I'm also responsible for paying all the bills. So any bills that need to be paid or expense accounts for those who turn that information in, I issue that check and others sign that for internal controls. So that is a summary. Any questions?
I don't see any hands going up, but please do note that Elaine is available to help your congregation with anything, any advice you need or any counsel about human resources. So she's the gal. Remember that face. You need to know her. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
Now I think we go to Miss Shirley.
Oh, I'm up and going. Thank you. Good late afternoon, good afternoon, morning, I think. We're still in morning. Haven't got
Late morning.
Yet. I'm Shirley Bolden from the Diocese of West Missouri here, and I attend St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, and I am a cradle Episcopalian, and that has been my church home all my life. So you can see the gray hairs. I've been around a while. I am chair of the Diversity and Reconciliation Commission for the diocese, and I wanted to state to you all that our team is in solidarity with the call for justice for all who have suffered the systematic injustice and oppression because of their race. As an Episcopalian, we believe that all people are created in God's image and likeness. We proclaim in our baptismal covenant that we will respect the dignity of all human beings. We believe that respect is not just a state of mind, but is demonstrated in what we do. We believe that in the sin of racism, harms of all people of the community, oppressors, and the indifferent. We therefore have committed ourselves to work for the dismantling of racism through education, prayer, repentance, confession, forgiveness, and action. And we call upon all the people of West Missouri to join us. We are here to provide resources, support, education, and training for all who are ready to engage in that redeeming work. We are currently having a book study group as we started this last Tuesday and on Thursday. We have times there for you if you would love to join us. We'd love to fill room for you to come in and join us. We're discussing the book Uncomfortable Conversation with the Black Man by Emmanuel Alco. There are also several very interesting YouTube videos that are offered along with the book. You may go on YouTube and see those videos. They are very informative, and the part of that is just for us to listen and learn from each other. We also are working on having and set up now our workshops that will be coming up soon on doing undoing racism. It will start on April the 17th through May the 22nd, and the times are from 10 to noon. There's 2-hour sessions. The registration is now in the New Spirit, sorry. And this will be a virtual workshop. Just because of the COVID, we are not able to do that personally yet. So hopefully, maybe in the fall, we'll be able to have another workshop that will be in person. As you can see, it is up for us and you can sign up. It is a limited number, only because we want to have everyone have opportunity to talk and speak and hear everything and listen well to each other. This training fulfills the intent of several general conventions resolutions, which call for leaders at all levels of the Episcopal Church to receive training on the church's teaching about racial diversity, as well as other forms of diversity presented within the human family. I have here among you the commission members. Canon Steve is our diocesan staff, and he is available for conversation if you need some help or learning how to get on with us or join us. We'd love to have more members. My email and phone number has also been listed. And do we have any questions?
I want to say, and I don't see any questions coming up, but I want to say about the work of the Diversity and Reconciliation Commission, how grateful I am. This is something the church has been dealing with for quite a while, and I think the events of 2020 have brought it back to the fore of our consciousness as a church and as a nation. And I am very thrilled with the work the Diversity and Reconciliation is doing and how they've actually increased their profile and what they're offering to the diocese. And Shirley and her group are very much to be commended. We couldn't get along without Shirley, and I don't want to ever get along without Shirley. So
you'll be okay.
We'll see. If there are no further questions about Shirley, how about, does anybody have a general question about anything we've talked about in the course of the morning?
And Bishop, may I make a comment that we
Please do, Shirley.
Also in your New Spirit, you'll see that we are doing some information for Black History Month on some of our very prominent Episcopal persons, and we've done Bishop Demby and Absalom Jones, Thurgood Marshall, and this week will be Julia Hayward for her information on teaching.
Most people don't realize the extensive contributions of African-American members of the Episcopal Church, and I'm really happy that they've been able to highlight not only the first African-American priest, but Justice of the Supreme Court, a renowned teacher, and a bishop of the church. So it's really interesting to see their stories, and I'm hoping this continues year after year, and we keep finding new people to talk about from the African-American community who are members of the Episcopal Church and who have done great things for our church and country. So thank you for that work, and I hope it continues. I really look forward next year seeing what 4 people get chosen for February. I have some questions now. Judy, you're on the list first. Please unmute and talk to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the print slides will be made available to us as handouts.
the slides that were displayed will be available as of March 1st.
Okay, thank
Gary, where are
you.
you going to be putting those up? On the website, I assume?
We'll be putting them up on the website, but we will also have them mailed out to everyone who signed up.
Great.
And also all those that were invited to join us.
Great, thank you.
And if you receive it, feel free to share it with anybody you want to. These are not copyrighted. Larry Aaron has a hand up.
Indeed, I do. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for this review. It's always a good refresher, and I did learn some new things about a number of different services, things that the chancellor does, things that Steve does, things that the formation group do. So I just wanted to say thanks. I don't know if the silence is necessarily a negative thing. There's a lot. I really appreciate the fact that the resources of the diocese seem much more available through this kind of thing. So thank you.
We appreciate that feedback. We know that, and I think that my favorite analogy for this type of situation is, we promised you a drink of water, and instead of letting you have a sip the easy way, we've been shooting the water at you through a fire hose on full blast. We know that we've dumped a lot of information in a very short amount of time and didn't give you a lot of time to process or take notes or do all that. This presentation has been recorded on video, and you will be able to see that on the website. All the slides will be available through the website and be mailed to you. So you'll be able to kind of check back, and if there's something that you heard but you didn't get a question in, or you just want to explore it more later. But of course, you can always go to the website, and Gary has put up support pages so you'll know about them. And you can always just pick up a phone and call the diocese. The diocesan phone number is 816-471-6161. You can always call, and there'll be a directory available to you. If you don't even remember the person's extension, the directory is available on the phone. The key thing we want you to go away from this session today is knowing that diocese, when you have a need related to your leadership in the church, there's anything you need to know, anything you need to do, anything you want to coordinate, let the diocese be your first helper and not your last resort. The diocesan staff is here for you, and we'd like to be able to help you on the front end to send you down the road, marching in the right direction with the right resources and the right advice or expertise. That's why this staff is here. And we all want to do that job. I mean, there's not a member of this staff. We have a great staff. I'm blessed with having a tremendous staff of people around me who consistently make me look smarter and better than I am. And so I'm very pleased about that. And so please don't think of the diocese as the last resort, but think them always as the first resort. Our staff is here to serve you. If there are no more questions, and I'm going to pause for a second to see if there are, or comments, then I will close us with a word of prayer. The Lord be with you.